Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Narc Free Formula. My name is Freedom. Thank you for joining me. Okay, two things. One, please excuse the chaos surrounding me. My life has kind of become a little bit chaotic in the last couple of days. Pet dramas, working too hard, a whole lot of different things. It's all good. But the second thing is, this video is going to contain adult content. So if you're offended easily by swearing or anything to do with sex, you know, this is not the video for you. So for the rest of you, welcome. I'm doing this video off the back of my previous one about narcissists and kissing. So this was originally going to be titled What's with Narcissists and Anal Sex, but I don't know how I'd go with that as a with YouTube and certain kind of keywords. It might not be a good thing. So I went with taboo. And the reality is, look, it isn't just about anal sex. It is about all different types of taboo sex. So, I mean, and we are talking, a kind of wide range here. I've spoken to women, from all different backgrounds who have been involved with narcissists, and I've heard stories of bestiality, incest, pedophilia, group sex orgies, threesomes, bisexuality, transsexuals. What else? I've got it written down. I had to take notes for this one. And oh my God, like if you just take one look at their kind of porn history, you're going to find some stuff like, 18 and abused and, that kind of thing. So, narcs and sociopaths in particular have a thing for this kind of sex that is interwoven with violence, male dominance, humiliation, bondage, that kind of thing. So, and yeah, control. So let's just talk about it. Let's be real. So, in either real life situation or in a porn situation, you got to remember that either of those things, like the narcissist, when they're actually having sex with you, it's almost like they're in a porn. And when they're watching porn, it's almost like it's a real life thing for them, because that's just the way their brains work. They're maladapted. So, and either scenario, one of the main reasons that they enjoy this kind of thing is that it reinforces the construct. So, his construct that he spent a lot of time building up is of him as, big man, big brave man, big bad man. He's the bad man. Hey, darling. And you, on the other hand, you're his powerless victim, sex slave, concubine, the whore, or his plaything, and that's how he sees you. And the whole thing gives him fuel upon fuel. So, every gasp that you make, that's fuel. Every time you wince from pain, that's fuel. Every time you ask him to stop, fuel. Yeah, baby, fuel, right? And it feeds his ego. So he loves seeing his power, the power that he's got right now to inflict pain or to soothe pain. This whole thing is reinforcing his godlike status in his own mind. So, for example, at home, in the real world, he might be a taxi driver. He might work for the local tip. He might be unemployed. He might be an absolute bum and have nothing and be of no value in the real world. But in the bedroom, in this setting, he is like the king of the castle. He is God, like totally omnipotent in this scenario. He sees himself as God. And this is the temple to him, to his omnipotence. All right, so number 4. I kind of missed number 1, 2, 3, 4. I put them all together, but yeah, number 4. Here we go. dominance and rebalancing the scales. So he loves exerting his will. And when I say his, like I've said this many a time before, but I'll say it once more for this video. Narc formula was designed for women. Okay, so I'm speaking to my girls. You blokes are more than welcome to listen in on the conversation, but I'm here to talk about this situation with my girls. So, and obviously if there are any gay boys in the house, then, you know, this works perfectly for you guys too. So you're more than welcome. All right, so dominance and rebalancing the scales. So like my previous point, you know, he loves exerting his will and his power over you, making you submit to him and to his kind of every fantasy or desire. And especially if in the real world you're smarter or better educated, or if you've got a better job, you know, this is his way of rebalancing that power, you know, and in his mind, the kind of things, I mean, if you could actually hear the things that they think, after reading a lot of H.G. Tudor's work and seeing everything that I suspected being confirmed, like now I know exactly what kind of thing my ex would have thought. So the kind of things they're thinking are not so high and mighty now, are you? You know? They like to use this kind of sex as a way of bringing you down a peg in the relationship, balancing the scales of power. So he gets a kick out of degrading you, make no doubt about that. And it's not just you, it's the symbol of what you symbolize. You know, you symbolize anyone who thinks that they are better than him. So not just you. You're not just you in bed at all. And that's, like I said, that kind of goes back to the whole thing with the porn. You know, he thinks he's in the porn. He thinks that's kind of real life. And he thinks that what you guys are doing is kind of porn as well. So it's just, you know, their whole kind of relationship with sex is not healthy at the best of times. And they are always kind of fascinated with the macabre, with the dark side of life, you know, that kind of thing. So, number 5, extra points for fuel for him if you're a virgin. You know, if he's managed to talk you into having sex the first time, I mean, my God, you know, that's making him feel like a god amongst men, right? So if you're inexperienced and naive, so if you don't know what you're doing and you know, and he's managed to make you do things that you probably wouldn't be doing, you know, at that stage in a relationship, that's even more fuel. Or if you're unwilling or unable to cooperate. So I don't know, just say you've had a baby recently and you actually can't have sex, you know, that's it's quite interesting that so many women report kind of being nagged and nagged and nagged by their husbands or partners at that time for sex when they can't, you know, when they're, like I said, unwilling or unable to actually have sex. And extra points for fuel if you're religiously or morally opposed to the act. So, you know, whatever it is, whether it's anal sex or whatever, you know, whatever it is that he's kind of coercing or manipulating you into doing, if you're morally opposed to it and he knows that, you know, in his mind, it makes him feel even more powerful, even more in control, all the more fuel for him. And just remember that, you know, everything with narcissists goes back to being about fuel. It really does. You know, it's how they keep their construct in place. You know, this facade, this mask that they're wearing and they're putting out into the world. You know, this is how they keep it in place, with fuel, with the fuel of virgins, ideally. All right. So whatever you don't want to do is what he's going to push you to do. So for example, so just say, we'll use the anal sex thing. You know, if you're someone who doesn't want to do that, right, he's going to push and push and push. But I can guarantee if you were like crawling all over him, begging, pleading and demanding that he give it to you harder, stronger, faster, more, and again, right, he'd be like, no, 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 not wanting it at all, because it's not about the act itself. It's about the fact that you didn't want it, you know, and he managed to con you into it, coerce you into it, manipulate you into it. That's where the fuel comes, not from the act itself, you know. In his mind, like I said, he's just playing out little home movies, doing whatever he does anyhow. you know, but it's the power and the fuel comes from the manipulating you into doing something against your will. And yeah, the taboo nature of it makes it just that more fascinating, exciting for the narc, because, you know, that's what they're into. And yep, the same thing applies to threesomes, transsexuals, you know, group sex, orgy situations. So they get the fuel, knowing that they made you do something that you weren't into or didn't want to do. But it's catch-22, right? Because now they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to throw it back in your face and use it to gaslight and confuse you, right? And what I mean by that, this is all fun and games to narcissists, but what I mean is this. So just say you did actually, you know, attend an orgy with him, whether or not you even did a thing, or if you just stood, you know, with your back against the wall the whole night, I can guarantee you, you know, at some point he will throw it back in your face. You know, for example, where were you this afternoon? You know, off getting some afternoon delight with Steve. And you're like, who's Steve? And he's like, oh, the Italian bloke from the other night. I saw you giving him the eye. I saw you looking at him. Right? You didn't even notice this bloke. But the fact is, you were there, so he can say that stuff. And now you're feeling defensive, you know, and now you're trying to justify your behavior when you didn't even want to be there in the first place, when you were just doing what you thought you should do to make your man happy, to, you know, keep the spice alive, or whatever, you know, however he sold the idea to you. You know, you were just trying to do it to please him, essentially. And this is where the problem lies. As I said, there is no pleasing them. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. So and if you didn't go, well, now you're like the frigid bitch who doesn't know how to please her man, and he'll throw that in your face as well. Or he'll say things like, I was just testing you. Like, Jesus Christ, who plays those kind of games? Like with a marriage, just testing you. So who plays those games? A narcissist plays those games. A reckless, impulsive, chronically bored narcissist. And this is what you have to remember. You think you're doing a relationship. You're not doing a relationship at all. It's just a situationship. This is just something that they're doing for now until something better comes along. And it will. You know, you can be the best thing. You can be like Wonder Woman. You can be like, you know, a supermodel. The narcissist is still going to devalue you purely because you're with them. And they think there must be something wrong with you if you're putting up with their bullshit. So it's, you know, it doesn't matter how good you are as a person. They are going to devaluate you, and they are going to discard you at some stage in the future. So it's not a relationship. They're not there for the long term. They're not there for the, you know, when you say your marriage vows. I mean, a lot of these guys, you know, get married. So when you say your marriage vows, you know, sickness and health, you know, they're for the health. They're for the wealth. They're not there for the, in good times and bad times. They're there for the good times. You know, when all the other stuff actually hits, the narcissist will be nowhere to be seen. In fact, they'll probably be using that particular situation and scenario to gain sympathy, to gain new supply, and to find new supply. So anyhow, back to where I was at. So one of the reasons that they will use these kind of you know, situations is to cause fights. I'm actually going to do a whole separate video on why narcissists cause fights, but one of the reasons that they do this particular thing, so the whole, you know, where were you, you know, I saw you eyeing off that bloke, blah, blah, blah. They do that so that they can actually create a fight, so that they can leave and go and catch up with Steve, the Italian from the other night. And always remember that too. When they're projecting that stuff onto you, that's usually a reflection of what's going on with them. So if they're pointing out someone to you, that's usually who they were looking at. So always bear that in mind. That's a little good a life hack for the old narcs. All right. So why do they do it here? So they do it to devaluate you. To devalue you, to see how much they can get away with. To see how little you actually value yourself, and they'll be keeping a little tally of that. Like, this is not just kind of random stuff. There's no random stuff with the narcissist. This is being done for a reason, and it's usually part of the devalue and discard. It's usually a way for them to devalue you, source new supply, and right under your nose as well. You think that you're bringing, a third person to your bed to have, fun threesomes because, you're so close now that you can actually do that. He's actually thinking he's bored and he's ready to make his move, but he hasn't got new supply lined up. So let's just start bringing them into the bedroom and we'll do it that way. This is the way their brains work. So they will also, do it to discard you. And another thing is when they've set it up like this, you've got to imagine the way they're thinking. So in his mind, he's like, take a hint, and he would almost be saying to you, it's quite obvious that I want to fuck other people. It's quite obvious that I'm bored with you. Like, look what I'm telling you I want to do. Look what I'm trying to get you to do. So when he's talking about, threesomes and orgies and group sex and that kind of stuff, in his mind, he's telling you loud and clearly. So when, in 3 months or 6 months down the track, it all turns to shit and your situationship ends, you're crying your eyes out and your heart is broken. And he's saying, well, we were over ages ago. Like, you knew, like, we were having sex with other people. This is the way they function. None of the normal rules apply with narcs and sex. So even when you think you're just doing something, because either you want to do it with them or because they coerced you, there's always something kind of going on behind the scenes with them. And in that particular instance, like I said, he's looking to replace you. So just remember, they're reckless, impulsive, and chronically bored, at the best of times. So if you're with a narcissist still, it's time to probably think about getting narc free. Think about how you're going to get yourself out of that situation, because it's not going to end well. These things never end well. And for those of you who have been in a situation with them and you're out now and you're looking back and trying to make sense of all this stuff, just know that at the end of the day, it's all just toxic bullshit. It really, really is. It's unhealthy behavior, from maladapted individuals whose brains just don't work, the way the rest of us, the rest of ours do. So time to get narc free and stay narc free, darlings. All right, thank you for watching, and I'll see you not tomorrow but the day after. And if you like my videos, please remember to share them, and if you've got anything to say, put it in the comments. Bye.